viewers, you're watching Afghanistan Report and I'm your host Swati Kundra. The main stories are: Afghan CEO asks world to join hands against terrorism. Suicide bomber strikes outside police office in Afghan capital. And female Afghan parliamentarian says terrorism and corruption are biggest social evils. Afghanistan's Chief Executive Officer Abdullah Abdullah calls upon the international community to draft and implement a joint counter-terrorism plan at a conference in India. Abdullah also hints that peace talks with the Taliban will restart within 6 months. We have a report.
Afghanistan's Chief Executive Officer CEO Abdullah Abdullah, during his 5-day visit to India, held talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Foreign Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on key bilateral and regional issues, including security cooperation. Speaking at a counter-militancy conference tackling global terror outfits, Abdullah called upon the countries across the world to draft and implement a joint counter-terrorism plan. He said the world should join hands against the scourge of terrorism.
I propose that each region assess the set of threats terrorism poses to their security and development, and then agree to draft and implement a joint counter-terrorism plan.
Afghanistan has been at war with Taliban, which was ousted from power by a US-led coalition in 2001. Taliban now controls more territory of the war-torn country led by President Ashraf Ghani than at any time since 2001. Abdullah said his government was committed to flush out all militants from Afghanistan.
We have relaunched a peace process. Our peace efforts are aimed at meeting the desire of every Afghan for freeing our country from an endless cycle of war and violence, and to prevent us in the use of our soil as a platform for regional and global terrorist activities.
In an interview, Abdullah said Afghanistan expected to restart peace talks with the Taliban within 6 months, pinning hopes on factions he said might be ready to give up violence. Talks between Kabul and the Afghan Taliban have been on hold since efforts collapsed last year after it became known that Mullah Muhammad Omar, the movement's founder and leader, had been dead for 2 years, throwing the group into disarray.
I would say that there might be groups amongst the Taliban who are willing to talk in give up violence, which there are indications it should be sooner than 6 months. And how it moves forward and what it takes, nobody can judge it at this stage.
Abdullah's trip follows Modi's visit to Afghanistan in December 2015, during which he inaugurated the new building of the country's parliament built by India. Both countries share strong bilateral ties. India has played a significant role in the reconstruction and rehabilitation of Afghanistan in the past 1 decade. According to the Indian Foreign Ministry, India's extensive developmental assistance program for Afghanistan now stands at around $2 billion.
The Taliban has continued to carry out suicide attacks in Afghanistan. In a recent incident, at least 10 people were killed in a suicide bombing attack at a police station in the Afghan capital, Kabul. We have more on this.
On February 1, a suicide bomber blew himself up in Kabul, killing 10 people and wounding 20 after joining a queue to enter an office of the civil order police. The Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack in a statement that said 40 police officers had been killed or wounded. The group often makes exaggerated casualty claims for its attacks.
ناگهان یک انفجار شد 10 تا 20 تا همه بیچاره دست و پایشون کلته یک چند تا میگه آباد بودیم یک کمی دور رفتیم همه تا دیگه هیچ چیزی رو ندیدیم یکی نفر بود یا موتر بود یا کام چیزی بود فقط دیوال تخریب شده بود همه قدر ما دیدیم.
Kabul was hit in January by a series of suicide attacks as the Taliban have stepped up their campaign against the government. The attacks coincided with renewed efforts to revive a peace process with the Islamist insurgent movement that stalled last year.
Moving on, the outgoing commander of US forces in Afghanistan, General John Campbell, said the United States must make a long-term commitment to Afghanistan to stop security there from worsening and prevent attacks on the West by militants based there. Campbell testified before a congressional committee that while Afghan security forces had shown uneven performance and faced leadership problems, continued US support for the Afghan government was needed to defeat militants.
Groups aligned with the Taliban, such as Al-Qaeda and the Haqqani network, continue to threaten our national security interests. Al-Qaeda has been significantly weakened, but as evidenced by the recent discovery of an Al-Qaeda camp on Afghanistan's southern border, they are certainly not extinct. The Haqqani network remains the most capable threat to the U.S. and coalition forces, planning and executing the most violent, high-profile attacks in Kabul. These are certainly not residual threats that would allow for a peaceful transition across Afghanistan. Instead, they are persistent threats that are adapting to a changing operational environment. Ultimately, the threats Afghanistan faces requires our sustained attention and forward presence.
Statement will be made part of the record, and you're recognized for any comments you'd like to make.
Emanating out of Afghanistan, Pakistan, other parts of that world is this thing called terrorism. And if we think terrorism, terrorism knows no boundaries. And terrorism is going to be a generational thing. And so if we think we can just stop and it's going to go away, or people are not going to continue to try to attack Europe or attack our homeland here, then we're naive, we're kidding ourselves. And so we have to be able to continue to have a long-term commitment.
Women in Afghanistan were subjected to a lot of injustices during the Taliban regime. Now, terrorism and corruption are appearing to be the main hurdles in empowering women and other civil society members in the war-torn country. We meet a female Afghan member of parliament who recently attended a women empowerment conference in India.
Women in Afghanistan have always been marginalized and underestimated in the society. The situation remains grim years after the Taliban were ousted from power. Naheed Fareed, an Afghan member of parliament who recently attended a conference titled Empowering Women Through Skills and Economic Independence, "Is this the way forward?" in New Delhi, said insecurity caused by terrorism was affecting one and all.
Fact is that insecurity is a barrier in front of every aspect of life in Afghanistan. No matter you're a man or woman, journalist, politician, a teacher, insecurity threats you. That's the wave of insecurity that unfortunately is increasingly getting the life of people. And terrorism, they are burning school with pride, they attack journalists with pride, and they attack the faces of development in the country. We have media they attack, we have parliament they attack, and all these things. So at some point, yes, we have all this problem, but in other point, we don't give up. We continue to push the country forward toward development and change and democracy.
Naheed also said that corruption was rampant in war-torn Afghanistan, which led to many problems in the society.
Corruption is making a big barrier in front of women development. And also we have the problem of, black money and black market, how we can survive as a woman in black market. We also have the problem of lack of access to resources. When you don't have enough money, you cannot ignite the process of development by women.
Despite all odds, women in Afghanistan are looking forward to lead a better life and contribute to the social and economic development of their country.
Now we meet 5-year-old Murtaza, a young Afghan Lionel Messi fan famed for his soccer jersey made from a plastic bag. The boy from Afghanistan, Ghazni province, is eagerly waiting to meet his favorite player.
Messi.
Murtaza is eagerly waiting in Kabul for a date to meet his favorite player in Spain. Hailing from a poor family in Jaghori district in the central province of Ghazni, Murtaza became an unlikely internet sensation after pictures showing him playing in a shirt improvised from a plastic bag and bearing the name and playing number of his hero were shared on Facebook and other social media sites. Murtaza's plastic bag has vertical blue and white stripes, mirroring the shirt worn by the Argentinian national team. Messi plays for Argentina, his home country, as well as the Spanish club Barcelona.
ای که علاقمند مسی شده از طریق تلویزیون شده باز ما را گفت که تو برای ما یک دانه کالا جور کن یا کالا بیار برای ما که ما میخوایم که مسی باشم دیگه ما خود نتونستیم مثلا کالا برای از یک نوع منطقه ما که هست چی از بازار دور هستیم دیگه پیدا هم ناخد شوه دیگه نمیره پلاستیک یا خودش یا برادرش پیدا کرده بود برای از کالا جور کرده این داده بود به فیسبوک باز ما این که دیدم خیلی ناراحت شدم با زنگ زدم که بچه تو چرا این کار کردی نمیکردی این کار هر چی باشه منطقه ما خود دیگر رقم مردم است که میگه بچه خری چی جور کرده بازور در اینترنت داده یا در فیسبوک داده.
The Afghan Soccer Federation said on its website that it was in contact with the representatives of Messi and would arrange for Murtaza to meet the player soon.
کمپانی روشن مخابراتی روشن اسپانسر از اینا شده که تمام هزینه رفت از اینا را و سفرشان را آماده میکنه و سفارت اسپانیا هم آماده شده که ویزای از اینا را میده فقط همه قدر مانده که ما با کلب بارسلونا تماس ما درست برقرار شود که این زمینه ملاقات در کجا و چه وقت و در کدام تاریخ مساعد میشه و اونا وعده کردین که تا 4-5 روز دیگه جواب میتن.
Recently, Messi won the Ballon d'Or award for the world's best player for the 5th time.
With that, we come to the end of this week's episode of Afghanistan Report. I'm Swati Kundra taking your leave. We'll be back next week with more news and views from Afghanistan. Goodbye and Khuda Hafiz.